Cue the conversation.
Hello and welcome to Q the Conversation. What's happening? I am Paul Amadeus Lane, and that is
Bryson Foster, good to be back, Paul. It's beautiful here in North Carolina, and we got some really great stories to tell today, don't we?
yes, we do, Bryson. Here in Southern California, we're gonna hit about 93 today. So I'm out there with my koi pond, feeding my koi, having great times. When you come and visit me here in Southern California, Bryson?
Oh no, Paul, you got to pay for my plane ticket, and I'll be right on the way. I promise you. But
Hey,
hey, when you gonna come to the East Coast? It's nice out here too.
you know what? I got you. Whenever you come to the West Coast, I got you, man. It's all me. Now, when I come to see you on down in North Kakalaki, this is what I want. I want a pulled pork sandwich with some of that mustard slaw. Can you hook me up with that?
I can hook you up right when you get off the plane. I'll have it waiting for you in baggage claim. How about that?
Hey, I love it, my friend. And I noticed something about you today, Bryson. You know what that is?
Oh no, I'm scared. What is it?
You haven't called me sir yet.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry.
Now
There you
I
go.
done told you
We're
don't call me sir, Bryson. You and I are not that far apart in age, right? You can call me dude, you can call me bruh, you can call me unk. Just don't hit me with that sir. Are we good?
Yes, sir. I got you.
See, I set you up with that. Don't call me sir no more. No. But hey, I am so excited, man, because we're gonna have a conversation today with a pretty amazing individual, man. And he's from your neck of the woods, man.
He is, yeah, he's got some roots here in Charlotte, so excited to talk to somebody who, has been around my hometown and also around, the disability sphere, and, he's making a lot of great waves out there with a really interesting organization, that's, beyond a bus.
Yeah, and me growing up in California in the hood, I'm looking forward to finding out what Beyond the Bus is all about and finding about the bus.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. As somebody who, rode buses back and forth during school, accessible ones. I'm excited to hear about this. Makes me think that I should be behind the wheel, not somebody else with this contraption he's got going on.
I'm telling you about it. It is amazing. Bryson, I got a chance to see this and videos about it. It is really awesome. Bryson, what I like about this conversation too is that we're gonna find out that myself, you, and our special guest coming up, we all use power wheelchairs, but we have different forms of disabilities. Sometimes when people see us coming in our wheelchairs, they think that number one, we too lazy, we don't want to walk. Number two, that especially me, that I've been shot, and they have all these different misconceptions. And Bryson, my disability, being a quadriplegic, spinal cord injury, is different from your disability. Tell everyone about your disability.
Yeah, so I have Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is a very rare form of muscle disease. It's one of 43 types. One in 3,500 boys in the United States get diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And so, you may be wondering, what is that? Well, it is a muscle disease that affects the strength of all the muscles in my body. So, my legs, my arms, my heart, anything that's a muscle, it is affected by. And so, Chris, we're kind of in the same family of, muscle disease. He's got a form of that we'll get into later. But with Duchenne, there are definitely different struggles that I think I go through that Paul, you as a somebody who has a spinal cord injury goes through. But at the end of the day, even though we have different disabilities, all of us go through similar struggles. So the more we talk about it and bring awareness to it, that's what's really, really important. But yeah, I have Duchenne, lived with it, was diagnosed when I was 5, was born with it. Mine was a genetic mutation, and it's just all about adapting day by day, but that's my disability.
And one of the things that we all can agree upon, we all have disabilities and the struggle is real. And one thing that I really appreciate, Bryson, about members of our community is when they look at the challenges they face and they want to help others who have either similar or other challenges. And when we see ones like our friend Chris is going to be joining us, it really warms my heart. It just shows how resilient we are. I mean, we wake up every morning trying to problem solve. And that's what we do. That's what makes us so incredible as individuals. And I will pound our chest, pound the pavement for us all day long that we are the best of the best in the world, folks with disabilities, because we are not letting things prevent us from doing great things. And Bryson, your friend who's from North Carolina, having these roots now in H Town, is really going to show us what he's doing. So, you want to bring him on, my good friend Bryson?
Yes, sir. I would love to bring him on, Paul. That's another one to the tally. Put up another sir there. But
Yeah, don't call
right
me
now, we'd
Sir no
like
more,
to
man.
welcome. But right now, we'd like to welcome Chris Pulley to the podcast. Now, Chris was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, so SMA, a form of MD, in 1986 at the age of 12. So as his disease progressed, Chris transitioned from walking to cane assistance to now a power wheelchair. But along the way, Chris decided not to let his physical limitations shape the way he's lived his life. He's a very active person, and he created the short bus, which we'll get into here in a little bit. And now that the bus that he helped create has now become into a nonprofit organization called Beyond the Bus to promote opportunities for persons with disabilities, participate in activities they may think are out of their reach because of their disability. Chris, welcome to the podcast. We're super excited to have you on and hear about all the great things that you've been doing.
Thank you. Welcome. And I will say that, I mean, I feel like here in Texas, we got the barbecue on lockdown. You know what I'm saying? So when you come to Texas, we're going to have some barbecue.
I'm there, Chris. I am there, man. Because growing up here in the hood and on the West Coast, we used to have barbecue stands at every spot. But I've been told Texas, North
That's where it's
Carolina,
at. Texas is where it's
really,
at. But I will say you probably got us beat on the tacos. You got us beat on the street tacos.
you know what? San Diego. Now, San Diego, California has the best Mexican food in the world, and that's me growing up in Long Beach. Always a rivalry with LA and San Diego. But I'm telling you, San Diego, the best Mexican food in the world. If you're ever down there, I'll take you to get some
We'll have to
rolled
make it.
tacos.
We'll
Now,
have to make it happen.
yeah, they're not taquitos, they're actually rolled tacos, and they're really, really good. And Chris, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, with your disability, like me, mine came on when I was 22 years old as a result of an automobile accident. But you and Bryson have a pretty unique story with yours. You both were born with some of the challenges. And Chris, what was it like being diagnosed at a very young age and you realized that you had a disability? What were some of the things you had to kind of go through in your mind?
So I would kind of say that everybody's story is unique, right? Everybody's kind of gone through this, uh, like this process or however you want to call it, I would say, like, probably, and I'm going to speak for Bryson, but like myself and Bryson, you kind of grew up with this, and you dealt with things as they came up, versus like somebody maybe like yourself, Paul, that had a spinal cord injury. You went to rehab and they helped you kind of adapt to your new situation. So like, it's funny because even me, people will be like, "You're not like a physical therapist be like, "You're not transferring right." I'm like, "Nobody taught me how to transfer. I taught myself how to transfer." And so there's always like everybody has their own kind of story and their own struggles. Um, I felt like I was fortunate. I was diagnosed at 12. Um, I was I wasn't running as fast as other kids. I ran a little bit different. Did a bunch of tests, did muscle biopsy. They diagnosed me with SMA type 3, and I walked until about my second year in college. I would fall a lot, but I, I walked until I found myself not going places. So like, people would say, "Hey, you want to go to the mall?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm not going to the mall," because my legs would get tired. They'd give out. There's been times where I'd be sitting at the mall, just sweating, thinking about how I'm going to make it to my car because my legs were just too weak to get up or move. So I'd have to do that. I made a conscious decision in college to say, this I'm not going to let this disability stop me from living what I want to do. So I consciously moved into a chair at that time. I probably should have done walker but you live and you learn. So I transitioned to a wheelchair, knowing that I would be in a wheelchair. And I've been in a and I was in a I bit I moved into a chair around 96 and used a chair and walked kind of combination, and eventually lost the ability to walk and lost the ability to stand. And, you know, this disease is a progressive disease. And like Bryson said, it takes over all your muscles. It's not just your arms or your legs. It affects your heart. It affects every muscle in your body. So um, I started noticing that for me, that second phase, that phase where I'm not going places because it's hard for me to get around in my manual chair. And so last year I transitioned into a power chair. So I transitioned into a quantum after doing a lot of research and talking with people. And that's how you learn, you know, what's out, what's going to work is talking to other people that are in wheelchairs. So I started talking to people that were in power chairs. I'm like, which ones do you like? Which ones do you don't like? What do you? And so that's, kind of my journey is how I figure things out is I interact with other people with disabilities. And to me, I don't care what your disability is. I don't care if it's a spinal cord injury or multiple sclerosis or spinal muscular atrophy. It doesn't matter. We're all kind of dealing with the same struggles on a day-to-day basis. Some may be worse than others, but like I said, at a young age, I did like MDA camp, and I watched people pass away from summer to summer. And I saw kids at very young ages in chairs, and I was walking, and it kind of instilled to me at a young age, kind of quit your bitching and be happy with what you have. And instead of looking on what you can't do and focusing on what you can't do, focus on what you can do. And it's harder than you think. I mean, I say it, but I have days that I struggle and I don't want to get out of bed. And I feel like my arms are 15-pound weights, but you got to keep pushing yourself. Nobody else is going to push you to keep living life, and stop focusing on what you can do and start focusing on what you can. I will tell you this: you're always going to find somebody else that's got it worse than you do.
That's true. That is true. And Bryson, no doubt, hearing Chris talk about his challenges, his journey, kind of resonates with you also, doesn't it, Bryson?
Yes, very much so. I mean, everything you said, Chris, I feel you. Going to MBA camp, it was really great years for me, and I loved MBA camp. But yeah, you're so right. Going over the years and seeing friends that I had gotten close with kind of pass away. It's hard. I think we already go through a lot, but seeing that, the mental stuff and getting up every day, and like you said, with the muscles and the different things, being able to walk, because I was able to walk until I was 12 or so, and it's just it's one of those things when you were sitting there talking, I was resonated a lot with kind of everything that you were saying, that kind of outlook of, people have it worse than you, so we need to keep going. And I want to kind of focus on that outlook that you have, because you mentioned a couple times. How did that outlook of, hey, I'm not going to let this disability stop me? How did that kind of lead you to the creation of the short bus and beyond the short bus? How did that kind of outlook lead you to say, "Hey, this is what I wanna do, this is what my passion is"?
So I love cars. Like I love vehicles, old cars, new cars, it doesn't matter. And so I wanted when I lived in Charlotte, I wanted a Friday car. Friday car is a car that you just take on Fridays. And so I almost bought a '67 Mustang fastback. I had it. It was poppy red, which is like an orange color. It looked great. It was fully restored. I didn't know if I wanted to spend that much money, and I started thinking about it. And a week later, they sold it. And so at that point, I decided I wanted a newer car. So I bought a 2010 Challenger SRT. Um, and I love that car. It is a pain to get in and out of. I have to have somebody, I have to use my manual chair, somebody has to put it in. But I used to, in Charlotte, I ran one of the car clubs there for Mopar. Used to take it to car shows. I've taken it to the track in Charlotte. I've taken it to the quarter mile. Anyway, I've also done the Hot Rod Power Tour, and that's like power tour is like, I don't know, like a rolling car show over like over 5 days, different states. You go to different tracks. It's great. And I took my Challenger on it, and I loved it. It was great, but I really wanted that old school vehicle feel. So I wanted an F100 truck. And I was talking to one of the guys there, and he's like, "Have you ever seen an F100?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "No, have you ever really seen an F100? There's no room in an F100." So we went and looked at one, like a 50s F100 Ford, and I was like, "Yeah, there's no room." So then the drive shaft, you start kind of, this guy is a builder that I was talking to. He's a designer and a builder. And so like he started bringing up all the complications that we would have of building a truck that would be accessible to where you could use it. And so that kind of, like, I left that thinking, man, I really wanted that. I really kind of want that old vehicle. So I don't know, that conversation with other people just turned into what would be cooler than a guy in a wheelchair that owns a short bus. So I bought a short bus. And then I didn't want to just build a short bus. I wanted to build something for other people to be able to use um and enjoy. And so that's whenever I started a nonprofit, Beyond the Bus. And so I wanted people to look beyond the bus. I wanted the bus to draw them in, but I want them to look past that. So one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted it to be more mainstream. So I built this bus to kind of take to car shows. And so one of my activities is scuba diving. I'm an avid scuba diver. I've got over 180 dives logged. Um, but there's already organizations out there for people with disabilities to learn scuba diving. What I wanted to do was connect people with those. And so what I wanted to do was take my bus to mainstream events and promote activities for people with disabilities. I don't care what your disability is. What I want you to do is get out there and do things. And the activity is awesome, right? So going hunting or fishing or scuba diving with other people with disabilities, you really start connecting with other people's, and it kind of gets you out of your shell. But really, what the activity is cool, it pulls everybody together. But really having all of those people around each other and having conversations about their disabilities and what their struggles are, that's what is empowering for people. And I wanted to bring that. So I wanted to take my bus to these shows and promote these nonprofits that have activities for people with disabilities, knowing that a lot of times I'm not going to be talking to the person that's in a wheelchair because they may not be at that activity. I want to talk to, I'll talk to their cousin or their mom or their dad and talk to them about the different activities that are out there and get them out of their house, get them doing activities, start focusing on what they can do and stop focusing on what they can't do. And it really is empowering, and you can actually see people, like, it lifts their spirits. It actually helps, I think, heal a little bit to be around other people and to, like, maybe some of that burden off of your shoulder of I'm the only one that's going through this.
Now I totally get that, um, Chris, and also Bryson, hearing your journey too. Bryson, I've known you for a while and had no idea, you at MDA camp and things that you went to. And what I want to do for a moment, Chris, was to talk about the name the short bus. In the past, when I was growing up, it was like a pejorative. You go to school in a short bus, it's like a joke, all these different things. But I appreciated how you reclaimed that title, that name, and made it a powerhouse. What was the thought behind that process?
Well, I mean, so first off, I thought what was cooler than a guy in a wheelchair owning a short bus? I mean, that in and of itself. The other thing I wanted to kind of do was break the stereotype of a short bus, right? So a short bus really, it has a negative connotation to people. And I wanted to be able to kind of break the mold and show, like, a short bus doesn't have to always be that negative connotation, right? So one of the things I wanted to do, or we are going to do, once we finish the bus, it's still, we're still getting some things done to it. But once we finish it, the other thing I want to do is I want to take it to schools. And I know this sounds petty, but I want the kids with the disabilities to kind of exclusively be able to get in it and see it. I feel like people with disabilities miss out on a lot, like a lot of activities. you know, friends are like, "Hey, let's go here." And they're like, "Yeah, but that guy's not gonna be able to go, so let's just not invite him." And so I think for them to be able to kind of experience it exclusively, kind of like it's almost like a gift to them to be able to say, "Hey, I got to do that and you didn't." And I know it sounds petty, but I feel like they deal with that every day. Why can't they be on the other side of it sometimes? And then the other thing that I want to do, I want to do an essay contest, and they have to have a mobility disability, but I want to take them and like five of their friends to prom, to dinner and prom, because somebody in a wheelchair misses out on that whole, like, limo and being able to do that and being able to connect with your friends, on like a special night like that. So I just think it's a cool idea to be able to use this and give back and be able to like have people be involved in events that maybe they didn't think they could be involved in, or immersed in activities that maybe aren't conducive for people with wheelchairs. I know a couple of years ago we took the short bus up in your area, Maggie Valley, Bryson. There's a big show there called Mini Truck Nationals. It's a huge show. We took the bus there, and there was a individual that I knew through a friend. He's a 10-year-old kid. He has cerebral palsy, and he loves buses. So his parents reached out to me and was like, can we come see this? They brought the whole family out. We were able to take him cruising up and down the strip, listening to music. It was amazing to me to be able to give him the ability to be involved in that activity and immersed in the activity, not just sitting on the sidelines. He was actually like cruising up and down. People are waving at him, and and everybody's telling me like, that's awesome what you did for him. And I was like, not no, it's what he did for me. Like the to see the smile on his face for him to be able to enjoy this, like it to me, it was finally like validation of okay, I built this, and now I'm seeing it like give back.
Yeah, Chris, that's really incredible. I mean, what you're doing. I think, the idea of creating a community within, the disabled community, is really important because sometimes it can feel like you're all alone in this fight with disability. And really love how this kind of whole organization and whole project is really doing that and bringing people together. And kind of latching on to that, one of the videos I watched of you when I was doing research, you said something that really just resonated with me. It says, when you created the bus, you wanted it to look hot rod and not handicapped. And that's such, I feel like, a powerful statement. So how do you feel like, doing that, kind of creating this community? How does that create a more inclusive society? And you kind of mentioned a little bit in that, but how does it level the playing field and kind of give that equity?
So it's interesting because people would like, we would talk about um, the short bus. And I feel like I would always tell somebody that's, not disabled, like, hey, if I park this in a wheelchair handicap spot and somebody tells me you can't park that there because it's not handicapped, that's when I know I did it right. Because everything that I feel like from a medical standpoint or from a durable medical or whatever you want to call it, your accessibility items, whatever you want to call it, car, wheelchair, all that type of stuff lacks personality and lacks the creativeness, and they strip it down and make it look very medical. And to me, I wanted something that would draw people in. And then they're like, oh my God, this thing's accessible too. This thing lays out, this thing's on air ride, it has stereo. I mean, like all the things that you would expect. But then we went and above and beyond cost money. But yeah, we went above and beyond and made it accessible.
Now you like me, Chris. I'm the same way. Every wheelchair accessible van that I had, I always tricked it out. Either had screens in it, had sounds in it, because I'm like you. I didn't want it to look, to look handicapped. I wanted to look cool. I wanted to coordinate, all those different things. That's
Exactly.
what I do. And that's really what it's all about, the individuality of our styles and everything. I look at your style, with your hats and everything. I mean, I love your style. Bryson has a natural style. He can just look cool just the way he looks. but then there's others out there. Some of us, we need a little help. So we have some little individual styles and everything. And Chris, you talked about how when you're able to take someone on the bus and they talked about how great it made them feel, but you talked about how good it made you feel. And talk about just kind of like that interchange of encouragement or the interchange of just things that we get being around members of our own community because we reach one, we teach one, but we're also being taught ourselves by others who are new to this community.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, I feel like sometimes the disabled community then silos each other by whatever your disability is. So like you only hang out with people that have spinal cord injury or and I don't have that outlook. I really just look at people. If you have a disability, um there's always something we can learn from each other, something that you may do every day. They may say, "Oh, I do it this way." And you're like, "Oh, wow, that makes my life way easier." And you know, it's not something you're going to read a book on. It's interacting with people and talking with people and finding out what works for them and not labeling people and saying, "Oh, you're a spinal cord injury, so we have nothing in common. I don't know what your struggle is like. And you struggle with stuff I'm sure I don't, but at the same time, we probably have way more in common with our disabilities than we don't. And that's, I think, what we need to do is bring these people together. And there's organizations that are kind of like, okay, we only do stuff for spinal cord injury, or we only do stuff for multiple sclerosis. And I wanted my organization to say, I don't care what it is. Like, I I just want you to I just want you to be able to experience this. I want you to smile and be happy and and kind of take it in, so to speak. That's really what I built it for, was to really kind of, I wanted it to do good, but I also wanted it to kind of raise awareness for people with disabilities in general.
That is a very good point. And when you talked about how we silo ourselves, if you have an organization that kind of just has just one thing in their name, a person may be turned off who has another disability and may not think that they have the same services that can help them out too. So you're touching on a really great point, Chris, and I'm glad you brought that up because Bryson, his experience, no doubt, would help organizations that have my diagnosis in their name by the struggles that he had too. So I really love this conversation. It's about time, isn't it, Bryson?
I mean,
I
I've
I
gone to
agree with you,
multiple
Paul.
sclerosis meetings before, like, because they were doing something about stem cells and I was like interested in it. And somebody else I knew that had multiple sclerosis said, let me reach out and see. It was like a support group. And so, like, I'm the only person there that doesn't have multiple sclerosis, but I was interested in the topic. And it's interesting enough. I mean, we all started talking and sharing stories, and you can see their eyes open, like, oh, wow, this person doesn't have what we have, but, you know, they're- it- they do this or they do that. So, like I said, I think we can all learn from each other and we shouldn't silo each other. We should just, so to speak, embrace each other and lift each other up, so to speak, you know? Sorry, Bryce, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're good, Chris. I mean, I agree with everything you said and what Paul said. I just graduated with my master's degree from UNC Charlotte, and Paul and I have talked about my capstone project that I did. One of them was on, creating the definition of ableism and higher education settings. And it's so interesting how when you do research or when you go on, like you said, siloing, if you go on and look at disability scholarship, sometimes it's okay, here's research on people who have physical disabilities, or here's research on people that have neurodiversity. Here's people research on people with intellectual disabilities, and then of actually studying what's coming together and making one database. We're all kind of divided. And again, I feel like with the short bus here, that you're kind of bringing people together, and so I guess that leads me to kind of the question of I always like to ask this, no matter who I'm interviewing, of legacy. So what do you hope that people take away from beyond the bus? And kind of where do you see this organization going? When people think of it, what do you want them to think of?
And I wouldn't say that I went into this saying like, this is what I want my legacy to be, or this is really what I want. But I would say that probably the biggest feedback I get from people is, you know, and I hate to use the word inspiration, but they say you're an inspiration because y- you're pushing the boundaries on what people think people with disabilities can do. So it's kind of, I guess the legacy that I would like to leave is that maybe I'm helping open the eyes for people that look at other people with disabilities, and they look at their limitations too. They don't look at what these people can do. And they there's a lot of assumptions, right? You're in a, I mean, I will be honest, like going from a manual wheelchair to a power wheelchair was a struggle for me. It's still a struggle for me. I look at people in power chairs differently than I look at people in manual chairs. And that is, I'm just being honest here. And I feel that other people do too. Other people tell me they don't, but whatever. It is what it is. But I also look, um, I also look at it as sometimes in life you gotta take like the help, you know? So like you could struggle every day. Like when I was younger, I could have struggled a lot longer walking, but it would have limited what I would have done and what I've, accomplished. And so sometimes, making that conscious move to take that assistive device or moving to something that you may not want to, it does help. Like I'll be honest, like um, I thought, okay, I'm gonna get this power chair. I'm gonna use it like just when I'm going here or there. But I found that it allows me to go and do more. I'm able to. I'm not limited, on different places you know, um, or like or even my strength or my capability to where I get tired. So for me, I get more strength using out of a power chair. So I think from that perspective, it's struggling whenever you have something that is a progressive, or you start losing things, even if it's not progressive. If you start losing, like I've lost some of my left arm, so it makes it very hard for me to transfer. And so you have to kind of just keep adapting and overcoming each obstacle and not give up.
Hey, Chris, you brought up something too about the word inspiration. And I think it's time to have a conversation when it comes to that word. Oftentimes, ones from our community get kind of touchy about it. Like if somebody sees you like grabbing a soda from the top shelf of a grocery store, but then there's others who are pushing boundaries, like Bryson. What Bryson was able to do to graduate, and Bryson, how high was your GPA? Let's go and give it up, man. We got to talk about how high was it?
You caught me, you caught me. It was a 4.0 for my master's program. It was a 3.8 in undergrad. It was pretty proud of that. Good Lord kept me going, and yeah, so
Yeah,
not to brag, but
yeah, and
Bryson did better in school than I did. I can tell you
yeah,
that.
yeah, and you know what, and to me, that's inspirational.
It is.
Not only because Bryson has a disability, because he just his age, what he was able to do. But in some of our community, they were like, they look at them like, oh no, don't say no. To me, I don't see nothing wrong with using that word when it's appropriate. You know what I mean? But there are some times when they over sensationalize it and everything, and then it's like, okay, just because I got my own water, I'm not an inspiration. I do like everybody else, but doing extraordinary things like my man Bryson, and like what you're doing, Chris, to me, I'm inspired by that because if you're inspiring somebody to better themselves, to look at their obstacles, to touch lives, I mean, that is inspirational on so many levels because it's changing people's lives. So I just want to give you props on that.
Yeah. And to add to that, like, so Bryson, for somebody like it's hard for people to really understand, um, life is harder when you're disabled, and life is more expensive when you're disabled. It's not cheaper. So, for somebody like Bryson to make a 4.0, right? To be able to go to college and do that. Okay, the struggle for Bryson to get up every morning, get dressed, go to school, make it to class is not the same struggle that somebody without a disability has. And for him to go through that struggle and still come out on top is huge. And that's what I think people miss is, I joke because at work, when I was in Charlotte, I'm like, I've got the same amount of time to get to my next meeting as you do. But I have to deal with elevators. I got to deal with people. I got to deal with doorway. I got to deal with a lot more in order to make that same meeting that you made. But yet I'm still there and I'm still doing it. And nobody really recognizes all the effort it takes for somebody with a disability just to do the same thing that you're doing.
Mhm. That's so true. So true. And you mentioned about your power chair. What kind of power chair you got?
So I did end up going with the Quantum. I'm happy with it. I really like it. It's interesting because you you mentioned getting stuff off the top shelf, right? So in a manual chair, you're not getting anything off top shelf. You're knocking things off of a shelf and grabbing it, but you're not doing that or you're waiting for somebody to grab it for you. I do like the freedom that this chair gives me in the fact that in more of a social environment, I can go to a restaurant and sit a high top table, or I can raise this chair and be at eye level with somebody. And it really does make a difference. I've seen it because I've been in both chairs. I feel like my evolution is somewhat, when I was younger, I walked. So I kind of had a hidden disability. Nobody really knew about it. They'd see me fall, but I had a handicap spot. People would question why I was in the handicap spot because they were like, "You walk," and I'm like, "Yeah, but tomorrow I may not be walking. You don't know. Like tomorrow I may be tired." So we and I'm guilty of that too. Whenever hidden disabilities are difficult for other people because you don't see them and you automatically assume that they don't have the disability. And, and the reason is because there's so many people that don't have disabilities that keep taking our parking spots. So, it's that type of stuff that perpetuates it, but there's hidden disabilities. So I feel like I kind of grew up with a hidden disability. Then I kind of moved to a manual chair and then now I've moved to a power chair. And so it's kind of like evolutions of different things, and been able to see the pros and cons of them all. You know.
That's true. One last question for me, and then I know
Yeah.
Bryson. I know Bryson has some closing thoughts too, as well. You know the short bus is pretty dope. Looking at the insides of it, I mean, you guys really pimped that ride out. You know what I'm saying? And the rims and everything and the airbags. I mean, is there any planned upgrades to that short bus?
All right. So yes, the short bus started out. It's a 1957 B500 Ford short bus, and I bought it in Eureka, Montana. Apparently that's where buses go to die. There's a bunch of them there. So I got it. I transported it down here. This is my first build. Like I've never built a vehicle before. So this is my first build and I've learned a lot. Good things and bad things. And it has. We put it on air ride. And people, some people are purists and like, why did you put that bus on air ride? But there's thought behind it. So we have a ramp that goes out of the back. So putting it on air ride lays it out further so that the angle of the ramp is not as steep. It's still steep, but it's not as steep. And so, and then, um, and we have the ramp that kind of goes over the pumpkin or the dry, and then we had built another ramp that went down, but it took up all the floor room. So we ended up cutting that ramp out and then putting another ramp in, and that ramp is on air ride. So the one that's in the vehicle is actually on air ride so that when I get in there, I can lay it down and have all the floor space from the wheels forward for extra wheelchairs and that type of stuff to be able to transport. And then, I've been fortunate to be able to have a lot of good sponsors that have been able to kind of donate parts to it. Um, so, Kicker's one of my sponsors. So when you talk about stereo system, yeah, we are currently um, we're currently rewiring the bus. Um, we're redoing all the lighting in the bus, under and above lighting, everything, redoing the whole stereo and the interior. So pretty much the drivetrain and the body and everything is pretty much the same. We were having so many wiring issues. We pulled all the wiring out and we're redoing it. And at the same time, we decided, let's redesign this interior and make it more conducive for what we want to use it for. So right now, I was just there yesterday. The bus is on jack stands and the interior is gutted. The wiring harness is completely laid out on a table right now, and in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be basically redoing the wiring and interior and getting it completely finished to where, we'll be able to use it for what it's meant for.
Awesome. 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 Great things, Bryson. Great things.
Yes, sir. Most definitely, Paul. And Chris, it's so
Don't
interesting to
call
hear
me
kind
sir. Don't call me sir.
chalk another one up. That might be have to be like, when you say the same thing, you say Jinx, you owe me a soda. That might have to be our thing, Paul. I might
I
have to
feel
owe
like
you
Our,
a
you need,
our
soda.
thing. Our little
I feel
thing.
like Paul needs a counter behind him, like a little counter, and every time he says it, you hit it,
Yeah. There's a sir.
and
There's
then
a
you,
sir.
then you
Yeah.
could you could make it into a drinking game if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. Give Bryson some Dr. Pepper, right?
Right.
Definitely Dr. Pepper, Paul. Definitely Dr. Pepper. Sorry, that's just Southern hospitality coming out. I'm a good old Southern boy, so that's just how it goes, I guess. But Chris, kind of with this van, I have a van of my own. I thought it was really interesting to see kind of what we call it on our van is the kneel, where the van comes down so the ramp is not as steep. It's really interesting to see kind of how this bus, that's such this bigger kind of vehicle, can do the same thing. So it's really cool to see that. But, you know, kind of going back to the idea of, wanting the bus to look a certain way. Do you think that sometimes people have this idea of what disability looks like? And how is kind of this bus, I know we talked about it a little bit, but how is that expelling the idea of, well, disability is supposed to be one way or another way? And Chris, you're shattering that idea. You're saying, hey, I've been active. Other people with disabilities need to be active. How does that fight the ideal of, you know, this kind of idea of normative society that we live in that is just based for people without disabilities?
So I always look at it's interesting because when I talk to people, I tell them like this world is an able-bodied world, right? Everything is built for an able-bodied person, and we have to modify that in order to make it accessible. So curb cutouts is an example, right? We built cutouts to make it accessible. We've, modified vans to make them accessible, and so it, this world is basically an able-bodied world, and so we have to push for that change, right? And push to make it accessible. And accessibility doesn't always have to mean it looks like crap or it looks, like that's the thing is like I feel like most people look at it and be like, "Oh, you got to do this and it's going to ruin it." But think outside the box, and start pushing the envelope and start making things look aesthetically pleasing without, making it look completely, you know, medical. Like I'll take quantum chairs for example. Quantum chairs have the ability for you to customize their chairs with the colors. It's like an accent color throughout the chair that you can do. It's the ability to kind of customize it and make it your own a little bit. Um, and I think that's what's key is I think people with disabilities, they want their stuff to be just as unique as other people's stuff. And so giving them the ability to accessorize and make things their own, I think it is what this industry is kind of missing, you know, with it. I know Paul mentioned his van. Like I have a handicap accessible van. And what most people don't realize is that minivan that I have, is a Porsche. It's like a $90,000 vehicle and it's a minivan, right? I would much rather have a Porsche than a minivan. But, what's practical? A minivan is practical. I can wheel in it, I can get in it, I can drive. But my minivan, I put rims on it. I blacked it completely out. There's pinstriping all over it. I've got a full kicker system in it. So I made it my own. And I think that's what this industry is kind of missing. And I think it doesn't push the uniqueness that people with disabilities have. So a lot of times you don't get to see the people with disabilities, you don't get to see their personality unless you really like take the time to talk with them and meet with them, because the devices that we use are not really customizable and not like made for, they don't make it super easy to customize, but they should make it to where everything should be customizable and make it to where it's super unique. They should make wheelchairs the IBM, right? They build the chair, but then all the accessories, they help like the aftermarket make it. And then what happens is people create and people make it unique, and other people see that, able bodied people, and they'll be like, I like that. I've never seen a chair like that. And that starts the discussion of somebody that is able bodied talking to somebody that has a disability, and then starts getting an understanding of what it's like and what we go through. You know, when I hang out with people that have, n- you know, they haven't been around somebody with a disability, they spend a week with me and they're like, there's no automatic door there. There's no curb cut out. This is stuff that they don't see, but you hang out with somebody with a disability and it starts opening your eyes. And that becomes help for us later on, because then it becomes, well, why don't we have this? And we're not the only people with raising our hand saying, hey, we need this to be a little bit more accessible. Can we put a ramp instead of like 15 stairs?
Yeah, and I think there's kind of this idea with disability, Chris, of like a one size fits all, right? And you're kind of saying, hey, and I think for all three of us, we can say that one size fit all doesn't work for a lot of people because I have different needs than Paul does. Paul's different needs than me, and that's okay. But we shouldn't be forced kind of into one category. But kind of my final question I have for you, Chris. So looking forward, how do you continue to grow beyond the bus, grow the short bus? How do you continue to grow and expand this thing to be even bigger?
So, I mean, I think I want to do the things that are going to impact, people's lives. They kind of leave that lasting impression. I feel like I mentioned it earlier, like MDA camp. MDA camp at a young age really put things in perspective for me and, kind of changed the way I view things. So I hope the short bus kind of does that for other people. So I know when we start taking it to shows, and taking it to mainstream events, it's going to get a lot of coverage from, the masses, so to speak. But then what we can do is almost slide in, hey, this is accessible too. And hey, these are different things. So it's kind of under the radar, like pushing a little bit of a disability agenda and showing people like, hey, there's sports out there that you can do, hunting, fishing, scuba diving. There's people out there that are think there's no way I could do that. There's no way I could scuba dive. I mean, I've seen people, I've dove with people with no arms and no legs, and I've dove with people that are quadriplegics. I have seen people that are way worse and they're still doing it and coming out on top and experiencing these things in life and haven't given up. And I think to me, that's what I want, you know, my bus to do is really just to kind of push the envelope on that. And I do think that, when we start going to different events and when we start doing the prom and when we start taking it to schools and doing that type of stuff, I think it's going to snowball. People are going to see it. And I think that we can kind of push you know, mobility is a big issue for people with disabilities, whether it's your power wheelchair, your manual chair, your vehicle. But vehicle's a big thing. There's a lot of people that are trapped in their home and have no way of getting out because they don't have $80 to $100,000 to purchase a handicap accessible vehicle. So they're stuck in home. And so, it would be nice to be able to like show people like the power of being able to get out and do things. And I think we can do that with the short bus. But I also think that we can also show people and open people's eyes to, what I think is an issue in the fact that these vehicles are so expensive and they're so unattainable for people to be able to get their freedom. There's I don't know the name of the organization, but there's an organization here in Houston that gives vehicles, raises money and gives vehicles to people with disabilities. And there was an individual, um, I think he had spinal, I don't know I think he had spinal bifida, but he rarely left the house. The only time he left the house was for doctor's appointments. His dad would have to pick him up and put him in the front seat, carry him to the front seat or whatever. And his dad's back got bad. This guy ended up getting he ended up getting, this organization gave them a handicap accessible van. This individual went to college, graduated from college, got a job, and now he's supporting his family. So that's the power of being able to get out and do things and not let your disability limit you. But sometimes the industry limits us also. I don't think people really understand what it costs to actually live with a disability and to be able to, you know, have different medical devices and needing help to be able to, shower or transfer. There's all this stuff that people really don't understand and they don't talk about, you know. And the thing is, the other side of that is, how you treat people with disabilities. And I always tell people, treat somebody with a disability the way you want to be treated. Don't grab their chair. Don't, just ask them, and I get this sometimes, like, well, I tried to help somebody in a wheelchair and they were being an a-hole to me, and I was like, I was at Walmart the other day and this able-bodied person came up to me and they were an a-hole also. They come in every size and form. Like, you can't just sit there and say, I met one person, therefore that everybody's like that. So for me, you got to look and you got to treat people the way you want to be treated. And you know, and I'm different than maybe Bryson or maybe you. I'm more open about my disability. I would rather somebody ask me what my disability is than sit there and stare and wonder. I love kids. Kids have no filter and they're like, "What's wrong with your legs?" And I'm like, "My legs don't work." And I'll talk to them and their parents are mortified. And I'm like, "No, it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to talk to people." And yes, you may get people that are offended by that and you may get people that don't want to talk about it, but you're probably going to get more people that will respect you for the fact that you asked instead of just wondered. That's kind of my mentality on it.
No, wise words, Chris. Really appreciate you, you sharing that. And before we let you go, why don't you give out some information out there how ones can find out more about Beyond the Bus?
So we have a website, beyondthebus.org, um, or dashortbus.com. They both go to the same place. All my social media is DA Shortbus. So kind of um, Beyond the Bus is the nonprofit. DA, which is like disability short bus. So the short bus. DA short bus is kind of the calling card for the nonprofit. And it really is, like I said, I mean, it's to kind of break stereotypes and it is to kind of break barriers and it is to give experiences and to be able to kind of uh connect people with organizations that they didn't know were out there. And that is something that you will find. You will find, like, I'll give an example. I was in North Carolina, and there's an organization. I think it's Back in the Woods. They do hunting for people with disabilities. So I went there, went hunting. I was like, I haven't hunted since I was a kid. I really enjoyed it. I relocated back to Texas, and I was like, Texas, no problem. I'm going to find some place to hunt. Not a problem. And the problem is it's difficult to find different organizations. It's not like one organization's across every state, every county, everything. So sometimes finding those organizations is is the key. And to be able to kind of go into those and connect those people with those different organizations. And you may find I connect with an organization on fishing, and I don't necessarily like fishing, but you may find through fishing, you're going to find somebody that does hunting, or you find somebody that does water skiing or snow skiing, or so get out there and try activities you didn't think maybe that aren't totally your interest, but you're going to connect with other people, you're going to connect with other organizations, and you're going to find that there's stuff that maybe you could do that you can't do now that you may still be able to do with a little bit of adaptive, engineering, so to speak.
Definitely makes sense. Chris, great chatting with you, and we can't wait to chat with you again. And I'm sure your buddy Bryson from North Carolina is really proud of you as well too.
Great. I enjoyed talking with both of you. Hopefully I didn't take over talking too much. I tend to talk a lot. So, and it was great meeting you, Paul. Bryson, great seeing you. It's been forever. So it's good seeing you
Yes,
again.
sir. Good to see you again. Please stay in touch. If you're ever in North Carolina, I'd love to get together with you and put to test that theory that Texas has better barbecue. I don't know if I agree with you on that, but really great to have you on, Chris.
I've done the Pepsi challenge. I lived in North Carolina. Now I live in Texas. So,
Hey, Chris, I see he graduated to calling you sir as well too.
I gloss over it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It does make me feel, I already know I'm old. It does make me feel old though.
Respect your elders. Got
yeah.
to respect your elders.
Is that what it is, Bryson?
Yeah,
That is what it is.
Bryson.
Got to.
We're gonna have to come out with a pet name for Bryson then,
I I to-
Youngin.
I
That's
totally
okay,
agree.
Youngin.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Bryson got
no, don't
yeah,
start that. Don't get Paul ideas.
yeah. Bryson got that. Bryson got that baby face. He got that youngin face. So that's what I'm.
He got the
That's
Youngin
what I'm.
face.
Yeah, he does. He does. Well, hey, great catching up with you, Chris. We'll look forward to catching up with you soon. Okay.
Definitely, man. I appreciate it.
All right. When Bryson and I get back, we'll have some closing thoughts on our episode, and don't go nowhere. You ready to go on our break, youngin?
Yes, sir. Always.
Be right back after this. More cue the conversation.
Quantum Rehab isn't just about mobility, it's about possibility. It's time to rediscover mobility and freedom. At Quantum Rehab, we design cutting-edge power wheelchairs that don't just move you, they empower you. Our advanced technology adapts to your lifestyle, offering unparalleled comfort, precision, and customization. From smooth indoor maneuvering to rugged outdoor adventures, Quantum Rehab ensures you stay in control wherever life takes you. Looking for innovation? Our power wheelchairs feature eye-level technology, giving you the ability to rise up and interact at eye level. Perfect for work, social events, or just feeling on top of the world. With Quantum Rehab, the future moves with you. Visit us at quantumrehab.com and check us out on social media. Quantum, #1 for rehab power.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Cue the Conversation. We just got done with talking to Chris Pulley from Beyond the Bus. Paul, what an inspiration Chris is really hearing all the great things that the organization is doing, creating a community. I'm excited to see what's next for them.
Me too. And I really enjoy Chris's inclusive approach, not only for ones who have muscular MD, muscular dystrophy, and other muscular disorders, but also spinal cord injuries, others as well, to be a part of, the short bus. And that really shows where we're going in a stream of time. Bryson, with the new leaders in our community, they're really embracing this inclusive approach and not just a singular view when it comes to different disabilities.
I agree with you. I feel like kind of getting away from this one size fits all and making things customizable is so key. And I think Chris is really leading the charge there with Beyond the Bus. The short bus is really cool looking too. But one takeaway I guess I had from kind of our conversation with Chris is, man, some of the sound bites he was throwing in there were really good. Looking hot rod, not handicap. That's one that stuck out to me. You got any major takeaways, Paul?
You know what? I just love his approach when he talked about how other people are touched when they're able to be a part of this program with the short bus. And he talked about how it encouraged him. with the ones who felt this kind of love and everything. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, Bryson. And when you think of just what it means for our community to make strides, I look at Chris Pulley to be one of those, and also you too, Bryson. You know, congratulations on graduating in your master's, man. 4.0. I mean, you have always, been someone that I've always admired because of what you're able to accomplish. And for any of those who follow Bryson on social media, Bryson is quite the ladies' man too. You'll always see him with some beautiful woman around him, hugging up on him, smiling and everything. So Bryson, I just want to give
Don't
you,
lie, Paul.
I,
Don't
I,
lie.
I want to give you
Don't lie
props
to the
on
people.
both fronts, man. But we're really, really proud of you, Bryson. I'm sure everyone here at Quantum, um, just look at you and say congratulations and keep up that great work, my friend. You're an amazing person.
Paul, I appreciate that. Thank you for hyping me up. And I feel the same way. I've admired you for a long time. It's really good as somebody who's younger to have somebody to look up to like yourself, who's making waves. And, we kind of have the same interests and the same passions of reporting and storytelling. So to see somebody like yourself making waves and doing such great work is really encouraging to me to say, hey, I can get where he is. So thank you for kind of blazing that trail. And thank you for being a good friend. I always appreciate the encouragement you give me. And always our conversations. And hey, we're just getting started with you, the conversation. I'm excited to delve in more. Glad we're getting to see each other more and getting to really talk about these cool stories. So thank you, Paul, for the kind words and really appreciate you and love you a lot, man.
Hey, back at you. Love you too, my friend. And you're gonna do better than me. You're gonna do greater things than what I'm able to do because the next generation always does better. And I'm looking forward to seeing what your career does and trajectory that you're on. And I will be your biggest cheerleader. And I like the way you said older than you. And so that was a kind of an underhand sir comment. So I'll go ahead and accept that though. And looking forward to our next episode. And thank you all for tuning in to Q the Conversation. I am Paul Amadeus Lane. They call me Sir, and that is the youngin right there, and that is
I'm Bryson Foster. Thank you so much for tuning in the Cute Conversation. We will see you next time.